Hello, this is Wyland with the FPV Race League, and today we're going to be looking at two of Lumenier's video transmitter. We have the 600 milliwatt and the 25 milliwatt. This one is a general purpose, although 600 milliwatts is quite a bit of power, and this one is mainly for racing since it's such a low milliwatt for transmitting video. We're also going to be comparing it with a 500 milliwatt and a 200 milliwatt. We've used these quite extensively. We really like them. You can think of these as the updated versions to it. The 200 milliwatt version over here is kind of the standard that we've been using for quite a while. It's just got the nice blend of affordability, size, and it just works well. So we'll go ahead and look at each one of these. So let's go ahead and take a look at the 600 milliwatt Lumenier video transmitter. So it comes in a nice paper case, nothing really all that extensive, but it gets the job done. Once you open it up, you'll have your wiring. So it comes with two separate wires, and then you can solder on whatever you need for one of them. So out of the box, there is going to be some work that needs to be done to these wires in order to hook it up to whatever multi-rotor that you have. It comes with two zip ties. And then the transmitter itself, we'll take a closer look in a second. And of course, the venerable whip. So if we were to just put it on, there we go. And this is what it looks like. The reason why we're actually doing this kind of initial look at it is because of the push button style for changing channels. This is definitely the way to go for the future of all video transmitters, and this is the reason why we're looking at these two right now. As you can see, it's a nice small size. The LEDs are pretty readable, and so is the lettering on the back. Again, very smooth. There's some vent holes. Hopefully this thing actually acts as a good heat sink, the outer shell. We haven't actually plugged this up yet, but I have heard reports that these things get really hot, which all video transmitters get hot. So that's really nothing new. When you actually plug up any video transmitter, you always want air moving through them. And then the plug is at the bottom. So you plug it in and then transmitter up at top. So I'm going to put this one aside, and then I'm kind of compared to the 200 milliwatt. So this is kind of the reference standard that we use in the Race League, just because it's so affordable, small, and it's easy to use. So if we put it together, you'll notice that really it's about the same size. I mean, it's a little bit more chunkier up here, but if you look at it, it's about the same size transmitter. Obviously, this one's 200 milliwatt, this one's 600. Now with this one, these are the dip switches, and I can tell you just from using them, it's a real pain to actually use these dip switches, especially when you have a lot of people out there and you're constantly having to change them if you're just rotating through people. It's very frustrating to have to work with these dip switches, which is the reason why we're so interested in having a push button video transmitter. And this is probably closer to what this 600 milliwatt is. This one right here is a 500 milliwatt. And as you can see, you're getting about an extra 100 milliwatts, and it's a little bit smaller. So if we compare them, the Lumenier is slightly smaller. This is an older version, obviously, because it still has the traditional dip switches as opposed to the push buttons. This one also does get pretty hot. So again, with all of these video transmitters, you really want air moving through them. So let's go ahead and take a look at the 25 watt racing transmitter, video transmitter. So this is actually in its own class, because at 25 milliwatts, it's really not a general purpose video transmitter. It's more meant for something like track days in which you're flying up close and there's a lot of people. So you don't want your signal to wash out other channels that are close to your signal. So it's definitely something that's built specifically for a reason, which is to allow a lot of people to be flying at the same time, which generally means that you're either flying for racing or maybe you're at an event and you're just flying for fun. So let's go ahead and take a look. Unlike the 600 milliwatt, this actually comes in a plastic case, and I'm going to assume that the reason why it comes in a plastic case like this is that they want you to be able to reuse the case. You'll notice there are magnets here that'll keep the case closed, but like they actually used a piece of tape to keep this closed, so it's not exactly a very powerful magnet. Here's the instruction book, just in case you need to look at the different bands and channels. The wiring is already completely soldered for you, so you have a power cable and then you have the video cable, and then this will plug into the transmitter itself. The same whip antenna that comes along, and here is the actual video transmitter. So let's go ahead and put this on. You'll notice that for a 25 milliwatt transmitter, this is actually still fairly large. On this side, if we flip it over here, you'll notice these are the LEDs, and then this is the push button right here. And the push button actually has a very good tactile feeling, and it actually extends up quite a bit of ways, which is kind of surprising. I would think that it would be a little bit shorter and lower so that it doesn't snag on anything, because if anything breaks off this switch, then this transmitter kind of becomes a little significantly less useful. Here's the cabling for the antennas. Actually, we're gonna have to cut away some of this stuff so that we can actually even put it in, because the plastic is actually in the way. So a little bit of work before we can actually use this. So let's go ahead and compare it size-wise to the 200 milliwatt, and you'll notice that it's actually quite a bit larger in terms of just size. It's really not too much difference in weight, although this does feel a little bit heavier. Obviously, the reason why we're interested in the 25 milliwatt is, one, it allows people to be in the air more with different channels, but more for the push button switches as opposed to the dipsticks. But fairly similar design in terms of what it looks like for 200 milliwatt. Now, if you look at the Lumenier, this probably explains why it's of this size, because it looks like it's probably using the same board as the Lumenier. It's just that the wattage on this side is significantly less. So it's about comparable size with a 600 watt Lumenier video transmitter. And then lastly, we have the older design of the 500 milliwatts that we've been using. And you'll notice we have this dip switches on this side, and it's about comparable size with the more older design. So just as the initial first impressions, I can already tell I already have my first gripe. And the first gripe that I have are actually these connectors that go to the video transmitter. They're actually not compatible with each other. So this one is for this video transmitter, and it'll plug in just fine. Here, let me flip this around, and it'll plug in if I can line it up. 1 second. Oh, it's actually pretty difficult. So there you go. So that's it, that plugs into this one. These are the cablings for it. Ooh, that's a tight bit. But if I were to buy this one to go in conjunction with this one, and I try to use the same cable, it will not fit. So I can't use one antenna set or one wiring set for both these transmitters. That means if I wanted to use this for my general purpose video transmitter, and then I want to switch over to this one during race days, I would have to have both of these wired up in order to use it on one multi-rotor. That really doesn't make any sense to me, considering it's supposed to be the same company that's actually branding or creating these. So you would think that the inputs would be the same to make life easier, so that you can buy these in a combo pair but only have to use one set of wiring, but that's not true. So not sure why they did that. If you were to buy this one and you already had something like this, because this is pretty common, it actually doesn't fit either. So, and it won't fit this one either. The only two that are actually in common are these two right here, but this is a 500 milliwatt, this is a 600 milliwatt. You would never buy these two together. You would buy one, this one right here, the racing transmitter one, and one of these. But this cable doesn't work with any of these transmitters. And I don't know which ones out there right now would actually use this type of port. So that's really just a very annoying issue. You should, I wish we actually had more commonality with the input plugs, so that we can buy just one set of plugs and then it'll operate on any of the video transmitters. Thank you for watching our video. Hopefully you got something out of our first look at these video transmitters. If you have any questions, please leave it in the comments below and we'll do our best to answer them. We're obviously pretty new to the Lumenier transmitters. We'll definitely get them on quads and try them out. And you know, when we get a chance, we'll actually do a review on them. Until next time, happy flying, and thanks again for watching.